What's up, everybody? It is the Daily Dope Show, or just the Daily Dope, and it is a show. Whatever you like, whatever you want. I don't care. Make it your show. All I know is it is my show, and I'm Brandon Strong, whatever you want to call me. Your friendly commentator, because I am not a news person. I hate the way that they talk. They make it sound like you're some like 5-year-old kid that don't know nothing, and they have to be very condescending at all times and make weed jokes, pot jokes like they call them. So, without further ado, we are going to talk today about the victory that we got in the Senate today. And mind you, this still has to go to the House, but it is an appropriations rider, and basically these things don't really get talked about, or they don't like, oh, we're not voting for the whole appropriations because this thing's in there. So I'm pretty sure this is going to get through the House, but then again, who knows? We've seen some shady shit go on, like the guy didn't even give the stuff, the PTSD for veterans, which the Senate approved. Well, the House didn't even let that one go for a vote. We'll see how that turns out later. But for now, we have this. The Senate okays the state medical marijuana protections, rejecting Sessions. So all week, we've been hearing people fear-mongering and talking about this imminent crackdown that everybody's been fearing from this racist, crazy, Keebler elf looking motherfucker, Jeff Sessions. And while I'm totally with everybody that, yeah, this is scary shit, but, I'm still like, come on, man, wait till something happens. I've been saying this since day one of Trump's administration taking office. Don't go out there and freak out and be like, oh my God, the sky is falling. Unless you see the actual sky fucking falling. So, I don't know, Here's, on that front, we heard a spokesperson for the DOJ, I believe it was some lady, Murphy or some shit. Anyway, maybe not, don't quote me on her name, I don't know who it was. But they said that the recommendation deadline of Thursday was kind of just a loose deadline. When they turn in their findings and recommendations to the DOJ about what to do about all the marijuana problems that's going on, that everybody that they went and talked to told them all about. Because if you watch the video I made about these people that went out to Colorado to talk about it, you could take it any way you want. I mean, they were secret meetings, so yeah, fuck that. But on the other hand, they came out saying what they talked about, and basically, if you are on the side of thinking there might not be this big crackdown everybody's afraid of, because there really isn't a whole lot of political capital left in Jeff Sessions' world to go and piss off half the country or more, then yeah, you were like, okay, whatever, they had a meeting, and then they're going to turn in their little report on the due date, which was today, on the July 27th or some shit, Thursday. I'm sure you're not watching this on that day anymore, because it's probably not even that day by the time I get this video uploaded. But anyway, back to the story at hand. The fear-mongering was all for naught so far. The lady did say that, if there's going to be some kind of action later on, we'll let you know I'm sure ahead of time, or as it's happening or something. You never know. It's just how they do it. But I'm sure everybody's going to know if some giant grow operation or big dispensary in Aurora or some places gets nailed by the DEA, and everybody gets like racketeering charges and criminal conspiracy bullshit. Who knows what the hell kind of book they're going to throw at them. But whatever the case may be, they've ramped up a few things that does look scary, but it's just like what Republicans always want. Like, it's only because Obama went in there and got rid of he didn't get rid of mandatory minimums, he just gave judges more options instead of having their hands tied on the mandatory minimum. He didn't, like, what else didn't Obama do? He didn't totally, there was the thing that they just did with the forfeiture and seizure and seizing your assets thing that Obama kind of neutered a little bit, but, you know, all they had, when the Republicans got to town, it didn't matter if it was Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump, or it could have been the boogeyman and Satan. It doesn't matter. When Republicans are in town and they got control of things, they want the shit to be a little bit more authoritarian and a little bit more, fuck you, we're taking your shit when it comes to the cops raiding. I can't say that there was less raids under Obama than there was under Bush. But we don't know what's going on with this new administration. So far, it's just been business as usual for the DEA. Their numbers haven't really spiked or went down any. And there you have it. So what about what happened in the Senate? Well, let's just read it. This is the report filed by Tom Angel. A powerful congressional committee delivered a strong rebuke to U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He wishes he was a general. Funding the Department of Justice for fiscal year 2018. The policy has been in effect every annual spending bill since it was enacted in late 2014. With a voice vote, the Senate Appropriations Committee added the rider to legislation funding the Department of Justice. I just read that, sorry. Earlier this year, the first report by Massroot Sessions, a former senator, sent a letter pleading with his old colleagues in the congressional leadership not to continue the policy into next year. Basically begging them to let him go after medical marijuana, because that's what this is all about, really. Quote, I would believe it would be unwise for Congress to restrict the discretion of the department to fund particular prosecutions, particularly in the midst of a historic drug epidemic and potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. Hey, Sessions, first of all, your drug epidemic is opioids. The fucking drug pushers that made that the thing is your big pharma companies. The big ones that push out all the opioids. Remember, that's what the epidemic is. It's got nothing to do with fuck all with marijuana, as you call it. And this uptick in crime, first of all, there is no uptick in crime. By no measure on any measuring stick anywhere in the country except for a couple of places where there is an uptick in murders and crime, inner cities. It's got fuck all to do with marijuana again. It has a whole lot to do with the fact that none of these places have an economy to speak of. And the drug war is in full force. The cops are basically like enemy combatants with militarized gear. And the drug dealers, same thing. That's why the fucking numbers are going up around those places, is because of the drug war and because of poverty. You got to look at what causes the thing you're talking about. You don't just be like, oh, whoa, we got to go hard on marijuana, guys, because there's this potential uptick in violent crime, and if we're going really hard on marijuana, they're gonna put the knives away and the guns. They're gonna stop being so violent. I don't understand his logic at all. One iota on this fucking bullshit where he's like cracking down on medical marijuana, because remember, that's what this is all about. Cracking down on medical marijuana is somehow going to slow down your violent uptick in, or long-term uptick in violent crime. We're not even talking about property crime where no one gets hurt here. We're talking about violent crime. Like, and I remember what he was referring to is he's talking about marijuana. And when you get into debt with somebody over marijuana, they don't have a choice but to come after you and do some violence to you to get their money. Well, Jesus fucking Christ, stupid. If you legalize marijuana, you won't have that fucking problem now, will you? They can go after you with lawyers and shit. So Jeff Sessions is just a sad old fucking dinosaur that's slowly creaking back and forth, stumbling into the tar pit. But on his way in, he's trying to take fucking marijuana with him. Believe it. Well, he's not going to go after medical marijuana, at least not in 2018. So, and I guarantee you his ass ain't going to fucking still be around by then. Jeff Sessions, are you kidding? He'll be lucky to make it through this week. It's fucking Friday, huh? Well, if he makes it through the day, I'll be surprised. So anyway, he goes on to write, the department must be in a position to use all the laws available to combat the transnational drug organizations and dangerous drug traffickers who threaten American lives. Oh, he's so dramatic always, ain't he? We're talking about medical marijuana, regulated in the states that they're grown in and grown in the states that they're grown in. And if this fucking idiot hasn't fucking looked at the damn news in a long time, guess what, man? There's been story after story coming through about how the drug cartels don't even fuck with marijuana anymore. It's not even in their damn, repertoire of shit they're trying to fucking do. At the very least, they still have about 20% of their overall portfolio dedicated to marijuana smuggling. And that's to get the marijuana to states where there's complete prohibition still. Or at the best, you have CBD laws or whatever. We're talking about that shitty regos. Arizona's still probably full of them. What up, Arizona peeps? Drop me a comment down there and let me know how shitty the fucking regos are these days. It's not that they're shitty. It's just that they're regos, man. You don't deserve that. So he's again talking about drug organizations, transnational drug organizations, and how they're, this has got fuck all to do with medical marijuana, man. And by the way, as you've seen with marijuana, if you regulate it, tax it, and produce it yourself, you don't have to worry about these transnational drug organizations. What the fuck? I mean, transnational drug organizations are pretty much the government. The CIA, the DEA, they're the ones bringing in the big loads. I don't know what the hell they're talking about here. If anything, they at least, collude with the cartel people and the big smugglers and shit like that. Because they know who they are. These people ain't hard to figure out who they are. Anyway, come on. So he said, I respectfully request that you oppose the inclusion of such language in the department appropriations. Wow, that's some shitty stuff to say about medical marijuana, ain't it? Bunch of sick people just trying to get better, trying to cope with this shitty world that people like you make even shittier, Mr. Sessions. You're a piece of shit. You got no business fucking with people's medicine at all, dude. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of doing stories about you. I'm sick of you being the attorney general and focusing on this shit every time your shit gets in some frying pan because you fucking did some shady deals with some Russians and shit. Or whatever. Just all around shady, like ultra stupid guy. Why don't you just look at the facts? Oh, I know you can't. You're one of those deep South Alabama ultra Christian prohibitionist. That's all you are. Straight up prohibitionist. So the senators rejected that shit back then when that was a thing. So anyway, the successful amendment was sponsored this time by Senator Patrick Leahy, Democrat from Vermont. And I believe this is was this the Rarenbacher-Farr amendment? I'm not sure. But basically, it just keeps getting brought up every time we have to redo this continuing resolution bullshit, which is how the government gets funded. All right, so Leahy himself said, it is more humane to regulate medical marijuana than to criminalize it. This is right before the vote. Quote, I don't want them spending money pursuing medical marijuana patients who are following state law. We have more important things for the Justice Department to do than tracking down doctors or others, epileptics who are using medical marijuana legally in their state. While the provision had been approved on the House floor with a large bipartisan majorities, most recently with a vote of 242 to 186 in 2015, it is unknown that the chamber's leadership will allow it to be considered this year. The Republican-controlled House committee has been locking down the amendment process and not allowing votes on some riders it deems controversial. This week, for example, the panel blocked floor consideration for a proposal to allow military veterans to receive medical cannabis recommendations from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. doctors, a proposal which was approved by the House last year. And meanwhile, every half hour, another fucking veteran commits suicide. And this PTSD shit is like probably one of the easiest no-brainers on whether or not somebody would benefit from medical cannabis. So come on, man. Let the veterans have it. That might still get through somehow, so we're waiting on that to do a story. But even without a House vote, advocates have a good chance of getting the Senate-approved state medical cannabis protections included in the final enacted legislation that would be drafted by a conference committee charged with merging the two chambers' proposal into a single bill. And usually when they do that, some of the things that got taken out get put back in, and it's just a shady time when shifty shit happens, and sometimes it's for the better. In this case, it would be for our benefit, so yeah, I would call it for the better. The Senate Appropriations Committee also approved the Veterans Medical Cannabis provision earlier this month by a vote of 24-7, and that same thing also received a vote similar to this one in 2000, was it 15 or 16? The vote was somewhere in the 230s, yes, and 180, 190. I don't know. It was a nice majority. In the letter to congressional leadership, Sessions wrote that marijuana use has significant negative health effects, arguing that it is linked to an increase in psychotic disorders such as psychosis, respiratory ailments and lung infections, cognitive impairments such as IQ loss and substance use disorder, and addiction. All the symptoms of alcohol. Every fucking one of them. This is like he's reading the symptoms out of a psychology book for what alcohol does to you after, long-term effects, really. So he's full of shit. No scientific study has linked cannabis to anything on this bullet list. Not even addiction. And even on addiction, when talking about addiction, it's less addictive than nicotine and caffeine, less addictive than sugar, less addictive than chocolate. I can go on. It's less addictive than fucking waking up and going out into the sunshine. It's almost less addictive than, I don't know, breathing. What's the point of Jeff Sessions demonizing cannabis still? Is there really a point to all this? I don't really get it, because if anything, it's just to show everybody what a total dumbass him and anybody that has a position like him has by amplifying this shit, and then everybody has to go, iron him out. Does he listen to anything, or doesn't he even fucking care? I don't think he cares. I don't think he hears this, and he don't give a shit. All right, so this vote was a stinging loss on an issue Sessions cares deeply about, and it comes as his position in the Trump administration is in question amidst the increasingly public spat with the president over issues related to the investigation on the Russians' attempt to interfere with the election. Now, I think personally the election interference story is a bunch of bullshit, and if there was anything really to it, we'd be in court by now, I'd think. But, big deal. Sessions lied about some shit while he was talking about that. Lied about some meetings. Oh, we're going to chalk that up as the senile? Because I'm seeing a lot of people tell me now that he didn't lie. Oh, he didn't lie? Oh, really? Well, then he said he went to a meeting, and then he said he didn't go to a meeting. He said he didn't remember. You either went to the fucking meeting or you didn't. Who cares what the meeting was about? We find out later that the meeting was about just regular old bullshit that people have meetings about, or some kind of business dealing, none of which is illegal. So whether or not you lie about something, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what it's about. I mean, fucking Bill Clinton got impeached because he lied about some sexual shit with a fucking intern. It doesn't matter what you lie about. That's just lying under oath is the thing that gets you fucked. All right, also on Thursday, the Senate panel adopted an amendment to protect the state industrial hemp programs from federal interferences. That's pretty awesome, and thank you, Tom Angel, for that. Now, here is this rider, and if you'll notice, there's pretty much every state on there. maybe, or every state that has medical marijuana. Purpose: to allow states to implement medical marijuana laws by the Senate of the United States and the Congress, making appropriations for the Department of Commerce, Justice, Science, and Relations agencies and related agencies for the fiscal year ending in September 30th, 2018. So for other purposes referred to on the committee and ordered to be printed, ordered to be on the table, and to be printed, amendment intended to be proposed by Mr. Leahy. At the end, before the short title, insert the following. And none of the funds made available under this act to the Department of Justice may be used with respect to any states or to any of the states of, and then there's the states, to prevent any such state or jurisdiction from implementing a law that authorizes the use, distribution, possession, or cultivation of medical marijuana. So basically, yeah, to allow states to implement medical marijuana laws. And oops, if that wasn't like cool enough, one of the people involved in these processes, one of the biggest advocates for marijuana reform in Washington is Blumenauer, and yeah, he tweeted about it. And here's Tom Angel to remind you that Leahy's new medical marijuana amendment doesn't omit Indiana and North Dakota laws like recent enacted extension did. And as you can see, there it is. North Dakota and Indiana are in there. And yeah, Tom kind of went on a bit of a end zone dance here on Twitter and basically smacking, it was kind of like a smack back to the Kevin Sabatts and the whoever else's of the world, Kennedys and the, you know, just the prohibitionists. Prohibitionists didn't have much to say. They were, you know, cheerleading some, you know, like this big crackdown that everybody's been just doing backflips over lately. The crackdown didn't happen. We got a big victory. And like Blumenauer says, it's no surprise. The effort has been this effort has overwhelming bipartisan support. I'm just tongue-tied tonight, guys. Sorry, it's been a long day. Now it's time for the House Act.